Percy Jackson and the Olympians is a really fun ride. We watched the first two episodes last night. These were the season premiere episodes that aired, I think, before Christmas, but we're just getting caught up with it now. And if you like just fantasy shows in general, and you're just looking for something that's easy, it's palatable, it's approachable, it's all ages entertainment, this is actually really, really good. I actually am probably in the minority here, but I enjoyed the two film adaptations they did a while ago, even though they were definitely, Hollywood versions. But what's interesting here is that those films didn't really have any involvement with the author, whereas this show, he's here, he's involved, he's an executive producer. If I'm not mistaken, co-wrote the script, at least for the pilot. So he's very much involved here, and all the critical praise for this has been that it's very true to the books. Now, I have not read the books, neither has Chris. I only know this from the film franchise because I saw the films a couple of times. And then when I heard there was going to be a show, I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch that show because I did enjoy the films. But it was never a book series that I felt compelled to read. I'm more than happy to consume it in a visual format. So Chris and I watched the first two episodes last night. I definitely gave this, like, she's in the 7 range, like 7 out of 10. She really didn't get into it until sort of by the end of the second episode, whereas I was sort of engaged from the get-go and was like, oh, I'm 10 out of 10 on this. Like, this is great stuff. Um, where I will say that my background comes into play here is because I've always been fascinated with Greek mythology and all the Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Egyptian mythology, since I was a kid. And that's all I can remember because I grew up the days before the internet, and one of the things that I loved to do was to take like an encyclopedia and go through the Greek myths and read. That's what you used to do in my day when I was a young strapling. And I've always had an affinity for stories that have Greek mythology behind them. I'll never forget when I was like early teens or whatever, because Hercules: The Legendary Adventures had started airing. I was probably, yeah, mid-teens by that point, and I used to just loved that show. That was like my first, like, oh my God, this is really cool. All these legends brought to life. So I'm always appreciative of anything that takes a stab. And the show does it well. This is definitely like Chris's initial reaction. I think we were in early in um, episode 2, and we were discussing how it's once you get past the initial mythology of everything, it's essentially the Harry Potter story. You know, Kid goes to a school where magic is taught, and he's one of these special people who get magic taught to them, and it's different from the normies, right? Only in this case, he turns out to be a demigod, the son of a human and a god, and is discovering that fact in a very, coming of age way that we've seen in a million other books and TV shows before. But it's fun. It doesn't have to be original. But it very much starts off in the real world, and he's had kid who's got problems, and he just thinks they write it off as like ADHD, whatever. And it turns out that no, he's the reason he's always like distracted and having problems is because he's got God blood in him, and it's the powers are manifesting, right? And that's basically the first episode of him realizing that this is happening. There's a Minotaur that comes after him. His mom finally reveals the truth, only to maybe probably perish. Only now they think that she didn't perish, but that Hades actually grabbed her and sucked her down into the underworld. And then the second episode of the premiere is him being at the camp and realizing that, oh my God, there's satyrs and dragons and, what are all these things and other, children of gods, claimed and unclaimed. And who am I? Who's my father? And by the end of the second episode, we find out that his father is, of course, Poseidon. And he's got to go to the underworld because he needs to get this bolt of lightning. And while he's there, oh, by the way, your mom's down there too. So that sets up the quest for the rest of the show, which I believe is 8 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, for this first season. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna go look this up to make sure that I get this right, because I don't know the books, and I don't want someone to crucify me by getting the title of like the books wrong. So, this is the show based off of the book series of the same name, and this first season is following, I'm assuming, the first book, which is, what is it? The Lightning Thief. So apparently he's got to go to the underworld, face a bunch of mythological monsters along the way, get Hades himself. It's gonna be fun. I really liked the first two episodes. Like I said, Chris gave it a 7 out of 10. I gave it like a 10 out of 10. And honestly, there are a couple of moments when the writing and acting felt just a little forced, but I don't care. It was fun mythology stuff, and I'm always gonna give credit where credit is due. My big thing is it entertaining? I don't really care about nitpicks of the story and elements. Like a lot of people will come in here and say, well, this part doesn't match exactly with the book. It's the same issue people have with like Rings of Power and Wheel of Time. Now I'm able to critique those shows because I love the books in both those cases, but I'm able to critique those shows while also recognizing that those shows have good elements, even though there are things that I don't necessarily like about them. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. In this case, I'm not coming into this with any pre-knowledge of the books, so I don't have to have my opinion be jaded by that whatsoever. But even in the cases where I have read the books and they've done adaptations differently, I still enjoy the shows, even if I critique elements of them. So this, I'm sure for some people is going to be like, oh, it didn't exactly happen like that in the book, and I would say, who gives a shit? As long as it's fun, especially knowing that the author himself is heavily involved in this as an executive producer and as someone who has been helping guide the writing and everything else on here. That's something that should not be just thrown out with the bathwater. This is definitely a credit to this being a show that is doing a good job of providing people with something that the author is proud of. And that's not something that every author gets the opportunity to do, nor is it something that every author necessarily wants to do. But in this case, we're seeing that we have someone who's willing to put in the time and be involved and help this adaptation be the best it can possibly be. And I could give two shits about where it's published. I know a lot of people are like Disney Plus. I don't want to watch Disney. I don't like Disney. Well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. I like to be entertained, regardless of where things air. I don't care if it's HBO, Showtime, Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix. If it's good TV, I'm going to watch it, and this is good TV. So I would urge you to go out there and take a peek at this if you haven't already done so. It's, like I said, easy to get into. It's definitely a family-friendly show. It's nothing. This is definitely like PG rating. You could probably watch this. I mean, the kid is like 12 years old in this show, so I would assume from, 10 to 12 years old, you've got enough of an understanding to be able to watch this show. So, I mean, if you've got kids, I would say do it. This is a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun as adults, and that's something I hope that never goes away, and that we keep seeing shows like this get made because it's good to have. I mean, this reminds me if you ever watched the BBC did a version of Jason, where he's from the modern world and he goes back, and it had a bunch of British actors in it, and it ran for a couple of seasons, and it was a lot of fun, kind of like Merlin. Those shows aren't meant to be Breaking Bad type groundbreaking shows. They're just meant to be fun and entertaining, and this achieves that. So, love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. See you next time, everybody.